It's actually really good to be back here in IKP Eden. I'll just share something quickly before we get into the slides. The CEO of IKP Eden is actually one of the, one, or rather like on the board of Bangalore Little Theatre. So all of our theatre rehearsals used to happen in this space, So which is why you see all the fancy lights and the projector and all of that stuff. Just thought it's a fun fact, just like this gentleman said some time back, right? But yeah, I think thank you everybody taking time out, and thank you Tilak for the AI generated intro. I think it makes me sound really fancy, which I'm not. But what I'm going to try to do today is I think we'll have a conversation. We'll try to I'll try to share some of my experience of what I've done before. Most of the things that I'm going to be covering today is going to be more on what I have learned from my journey, and I think what has worked, what has not worked, and something hopefully I can sort of add some value to all of you, right? So yeah, audible? You can hear me back there? Yeah, okay. Right. So before we look into all of this, I just want a show of hands. How many people want to start something in B2C? Like you'd reach directly to consumers. Okay. Put it up. Yeah. One. So we have more B2C people today. The rest of you are all B2B or want to look more on the B2B side? Right? Okay. So I think what we'll do today is we'll try to sort of understand how we can launch things from a B2B perspective also. Apart from that, how many of you have hit product market fit? Sort of. How many of you are How many of you have a product or service? Okay, 3, 4. How many of you have customers paying or not paying? Okay, 2 people. So, and how many of you have actually validated it without paying customers? Anybody? You have a validation in place, right? So I think what I'll do in that case, I mean, based on what I've heard so far, I think we'll spend some time on the market research piece. As an investor myself, I think what I try to do is I try to understand, at least whether some traction is there or not. So what we'll do is we'll try to see, whether there is, like, how we can get that traction going forward, right? Yeah. So there are no fancy slides. Okay, these are not. I didn't. Like these. This is not the B school stuff that you will see, but it's pretty. It's going to be informative, and I think we'll try to keep it as interactive as possible. What we'll try to do today is we'll try to understand buyer personas, like that. Sorry, there's no grade, there's no class participation today. So we look at that a little bit. We look at a few frameworks, we look at how to get the initial sales going as well, right? So and we'll also look at a few common mistakes that people make from GTM, and what we can do to sort of rectify that, or at least be aware. So, but before we look at any of these, anybody tell me what market research is? Anybody? Doesn't have to be a perfect definition. Maybe we can send the mic around also. If anybody? Yeah, go ahead. Okay, so that's a demand generation, right?
Knowing your competitors or someone else, whether their same product is available or not in the market, or what you are actually building.
Right. Okay. So we have demand, we have competition. Anybody? Pain points. Okay. Okay. Anything else? Right. All right. So we can define it based on what you guys have said so far, right? Whether there's a need, who is doing it, right? And what's happening in the market, right? So how do we usually find that out? So there are 2 ways we do it. We sort of we do a lot of research, right? So where do we do research? Anybody? Google. Who uses Perplexity for research? Everybody uses Perplexity for research, right? So So without, I mean, of course, I've put a few things here, but why do we think market research is important? Why is it important?
Know where you stand, where you have to start, basically.
Product market fit. Okay, where we need to start.
For product market fit, we should know what market trends. How
Right.
is it? How many people can you actually impact
Right.
with your solution?
Right. Right.
And has something like this been tried before? Why did it not work? Or if it's going to work, what are the primary prerequisites for it to work?
Right.
Right? What kind of user will it target towards, and what price point will it be?
Right. Right. So actually, good with what you said. Based on what he's saying, how many of us have hit product market fit? You hit product market fit.
What is the question?
No. Based on what Hardeep said, how many of us have hit product market fit? Right. So we look at that then today. Right. We look at what it takes to sort of get product market fit, whether it's for a business, B2B, B2C. I think services also. I think we'll explore how to do all of these things. Right. So how many people know what a SISP is? Anybody? Yeah. It was written in the previous slide. Yeah. So what is it? Yeah. According to you.
Same thing that you solution in search.
Yeah. So has anybody heard of the graveyard of apps? Yeah. Do we know what the graveyard of apps is? How many people have actually seen apps and thought, why do these apps even exist?
That is it.
Yeah. You want to share? Like, have you seen any app or come across any app wondering why they exist in the first place?
These days, there's a lot of quick commerce comparing apps that is coming. Like, if
Okay.
you book a cab, you will see the prices of Uber, Rapido, but I felt sometimes it's not real time. I check some app, it shows me a price, but then when I go actually into Uber, the price is different. So I don't know from where they're collecting the data.
They're collecting the data, or are you questioning their existence?
Well, that's what doesn't make sense. If you're
Yeah.
giving incorrect information, then no use. There's no use case.
Right? So there's no use case. How many companies do you see doing this apart from your use case? Have you seen anything? Have you seen anybody doing this? How many people tried the Koo app over here?
Yeah.
Yeah, KOO,
Sure.
Indian version of Koo. How many people have tried that? Right?
The entire NFT was the rendition of this, right? It's just
Yeah,
there's a
exactly.
solution that is looking for a problem here. Artwork
Yeah.
needs to be,
Yeah,
the entire ecosystem failed. The entire, you can even say crypto is a system, right? The solution in such a problem.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, see, we have a lot of use cases, right? So there's so actually the people at YC sort of came together, and I think I forget his name. I think Graham something. Paul Graham, yeah, thanks. So he actually, put this thing out about a SISP. So actually, this is one of the common traps that people fall into, which we'll also figure out how to make sure that doesn't happen, right?
What exactly is that?
Sorry.
What exactly is the SISP trap? If I make something, it doesn't make sense.
Right. So I'll give you an example. So for have you heard the Koo guy speaking? I don't know the guy. I mean, I'm just like we're coming on tape and stuff, so I don't want to say anything. But see, like that guy had a use case that was specific to a certain market fluctuation, like COVID, right? So he did it. He did something during the time when COVID happened, right? But after COVID went, I mean, there was no use case anymore, right? And I think we don't even know how he got the users, which users he got, right? Multilingual people still are on Facebook, Instagram, right? So is there a use case for something like a Koo, right? So like actually, if you just read here, he's actually spoken about Uber for plumbers. If you see this, right? So is there a use case for an Uber for plumbers? We have Urban Company, right? If you're going to come and tell me I want to start an Uber for plumbers, right? As an investor, I'm not even going to talk to you, right? So yeah, so it's about trying to like I think all of you all have said that, right? It's about trying to understand what is going on in the market, trying to understand whether there's a need, there's a demand, right? We all need to figure what's going on before we actually launch something, right? So based on this, I think what I've tried to do is I've tried to sort of figure out how we can build out some kind of a hypothesis, right? This one, I think we'll circulate this with all of y'all. I think if you want, I mean, it's pretty common in a way, but basically, so there are two things that people usually do when we try to find out what the market is, right? We try to build a hypothesis and we try to validate. How many engineering graduates? Yeah? Everybody except even the camera guy is like an engineering graduate. So I think for the people who've studied engineering and have written papers in engineering, you would have been required to do something called a review of literature, where you would have had to look at different papers, when you have to submit project reports. So that's exactly what a hypothesis building is, right? So when you look at trying to build a hypothesis, right, you try to figure out what is there in the market before you go on the field and try to see something, right? So that's exactly what the secondary literature is, right? So how many people actually read industry reports? Yeah. Which are the reports that you? McKinsey, BCG, Bain. Yeah. I think there are some fantastic healthcare reports that you can find, right? I think KPMG does a lot of reporting as well, right? And then you have IEEE. I think the people who want to look at engineering, right? I put a few here. I put Statista, Deloitte. How many get their news? Where do you get your news? I'm actually curious. Where does everybody get their news from? Online where? Social media where? Like business news. I mean, stuff like this, right? News articles, market trends. X. Okay, that's good. Yeah. Daily Hunt. Okay. So I mean, these are these reliable places to get your news?
So you get more of personal feedback about things that are happening.
Okay. Yeah, so that is on the other side. So we'll come to that. But for now, where does everybody get their news?
Basically, it's all social media. Google.
Who gets it from Instagram? Anybody?
I do.
You do? Yeah. Please don't do that. I just want to say that, please don't do that. Please don't get it from Instagram. That's my only thing. So actually, Financial Times Economist gives you, I think, 2 free articles a month or something like that. I think student discounts. I think if you can find those, you can get them as well. So I think you were talking about trade checks, right? You were talking about going and talking to people and actually getting their feedback. That's exactly what a trade check is, right? So trade check is actually going on the field, like for example, if you want to start a food like a restaurant, right? The first thing you do is you go on Swiggy and you try to see who are the restaurants in the same space. That's called a trade check. You want to start a bathroom detergent, you go to a Spar or everybody shops on Zepto, or whatever, right? So you go and see who are the people that you're buying from at what price point. So that's called a trade check. Okay. So when you come to validation, there are two things. You try to understand a primary research. What you try to do is you try to probably do a focus group. You do a survey. You try to understand where the pain points are. And you try to see what products people are using, right? And based on that, you try to form some kind of a hypothesis, right? And try to see if there is any entry into that kind of a market, right? And then you look at a product market fit. You try to build out an MVP, and you try to see. I think if you go to Reliance Fresh, there's a Reliance Fresh right across, right? They actually give you the oat milk to try, right? So that's an example of an MVP that people want to try, right? So this actually, by doing all of this, what happens is you at least build your initial customer base, people who are high intent early adopters, and people who will eventually become paying customers. So before I move from here, anybody, any questions? Anything so far?
Do you think really this going through, all these big research papers and literature really works?
So I'll ask you a question. Okay, I'll put it back to you. How whatever they write or whatever you read in the news, do you believe it as a gospel truth?
Recognized source, then obviously it's considered as a truth.
But
For example, as you said, if I read something from an Instagram meme page compared to what I read from Deloitte or let's say Times of India, that's how the shift happens. Right?
no, okay, fine. I'm not going to use the word truth. I'm not going to. I'm not going to. That's not a proper word. But do you think that there is a possibility of bias while reading a Deloitte report? Yeah. Right. Do you think there's a possibility that some results may have been skewed to make it look better? Right. Even if they are like, I'm not going to throw names, but even if they are coming from a large publication house, right? Do you know the people who they've used as specimens of the survey? Do you know the sample size? Right. Right. It's possible that the government of India talks to only the billionaires and comes up with policy, right? It's I'm not saying it happens, but if that's the case, then you need to always validate it using primary research, right? Right. The only way that you know how oat milk works or tastes is by going to Reliance Fresh and having it, right? And otherwise you'll never know unless you try ordering it on Zepto and they give you like 10 ml, 20 ml, whatever, right? So I think of course this is not a very exhaustive thing. I mean, there are many more things you can do, but essentially this is where you need to start if you want to start building a hypothesis or try to understand where like, or rather which market you want to enter. So I think this is it's a good framework to understand which industry you want to get into. So it's just, yeah.
Market research, how much important is the data? And could you share like what could be the right source for me to check for some availability of data which I can utilize in my research?
So exactly like you said, right? I think getting these industry reports, they are reliable, but then if you are going to start something which is going to be a niche, right? It cannot rely exactly on that, right? So there is always, according to me, like when I look at companies that I invest in, I look at a certain market, I look at a TAM, like a total addressable market, but then from there I try to understand whether they are also in some other markets also, right? So for example, I'll just take her example, right? Like telehealth, right? Which industry are they in? Is it telecalling or is it healthcare? Which one is it in?
Services.
No, no, it could be services, but then it's also in healthcare, right? Right. So there's an overlap. There's always an overlap, right? So the overlap, the industry reports will not give you that overlap. They'll probably give you a use case saying that this is possible here, right? We were talking outside about the voice, right? Is that in tele or is it in AI? Which is it, right? And there are times when it happens 3 times also. Like picture a Venn diagram, right? Like there are 3 Venns across, and there'll be a common point, right? That tells you how niche your market is. Yeah. So I think that's a basic understanding that people need to have. If I mean, like I'm saying, go and do this, but then also do that. Like that should be your priority more than this, right?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So in the validation phase, you are saying that we do primary research and then we decide that the product market. Is it like that?
No, I'm not saying that. What I will say is that you do your secondary research to build a hypothesis, right? So secondary research is something that gives you an insight into the market. So I'll give you an example. So let's say that you've read 20 market research papers in just give me an industry. Like what industry shall we look at? Health. Okay, let's say, okay, let's take geriatric health, okay, which is basically old people health. So when you look at a geriatric health, right, let's say that you've read a report from KPMG, you've read a report from Deloitte, you've read a report from McKinsey, you've done all of these things, right? What these reports give you is a common thread, right? To either do geriatric health or to not do geriatric health. And if you were to do geriatric health, what comes within the geriatric health, right? You have dental care, right? Or you have insurance that you can look at, right? What this does, secondary research does, is it tells you where the gap is, or it gives you some kind of an insight for you to estimate where the gap is, right?
It tells you the gap about the primary product, or it will also tell me the products I can upsell or cross-sell.
We're not even getting to upsell or cross-sell yet, right?
Like for example, let's say you said for the healthcare, if I have a primary health product, right, and I do some research and I feel, okay, I can sell insurance also.
Right.
So that's where I'm bringing in something of a different domain, right?
Yeah, but then you're biting off more than you can chew. Why would you start something and then try to pivot? You can always pivot, right? But it's better to focus on one thing, right? If you want to do just insurance, if you find insurance as a good thing to do, stop the other thing and do the insurance, and then explore whether that's something you can go back to, right? And to just finish answering your point, once you've built a hypothesis and you've found that this is something that you want to work towards, the only way to validate it is by going on the field and trying to figure out what is going on there, right? What are people actually thinking, right? Are people really going to respond to insurance? We don't know until we go and try to actually do it that way, right? So yeah, you do need a bit of both. Product market fit comes only if you're extremely lucky, right? If you're extremely lucky, but it usually does not come. I'll leave it at that. I'll come to that. There are many more slides. There are, yeah. So shall I? I think we'll come back to this later if required. I think we'll come back later to this, right? So. Okay, so I think let's get into the meat of what we came here today for. I think I'm not going to talk about onboarding monetization. I'm not going to talk about these, but I'll talk more about the acquisition piece actually. So I think because we're all, I think based on whatever we've spoken today, I think acquisition is something that we need to actually validate and figure out whether product market fit is something we could actually look at or not, right? So, I think what this is more of a checklist, I would say, or like a description of what we do. So, I think what we'll do is let's try to understand more about the acquisition piece, and then if time permits, I think we'll look at the other pieces also. Right? How many people here have heard of first principles thinking? How many people? Yeah. Can you tell us what first principles are? Sorry, I'm not picking on you. Just somebody who knows.
It is going to the fundamental truth of everything.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So we want to essentially what we want to do is we want to find out what is the fundamental truth of any product, right? Or I mean, it doesn't have to be a fundamental truth. It can just be the nuts and bolts of what makes a product, right? So that's the first thing that we need to understand, right? We need to understand things at a very high level, right? I think this is true even for the market research side of things. As we go deeper and deeper, we also start developing a core value proposition. And what we also do is we try to sort of see from there as to how we can sort of formulate a go-to-market, right? I've actually done this. How many people have heard of Happiest Minds? I work for Happiest Minds, in case nobody knows. It's a IT services company, and it's a public company. So it's been around for about 15 years or so. So I think the reason I put this in here is to give an understanding of how the first principles thinking works. You like out of the services that are offered, I mean, of course, there are many more services that the company offers, but I just thought I'd just give an example, to reach to some kind of a nuts and bolts of a business, right? So I think what we can do is we can sort of do this. Who uses Swiggy? Swiggy? or Zomato? Everybody uses Swiggy, right? Okay, so then actually we can try this exercise for Swiggy, right? So what are the businesses Swiggy has? Anybody? Food delivery, grocery, Instamart, which they stopped now, is not there anymore. Yeah, stopped. Yeah, Genie is gone. No. So we still at the core of it. I mean, we're not at the core yet. So we have food. We have Instamart. Which one? Noise.
Is their own brand. It's their own.
Okay, no, we'll get to that later. So right now we do food and home item delivery. We have food delivery. We have Instamart. We'll keep, for argument's sake, we'll keep Genie also. So these are the three core businesses that they have. Let's look at food, right? What do they do in food? Platform? No. So they do restaurant listings. Okay. What else do they do?
Payments.
Ordering, payments,
They have their own white label.
cloud kitchens. We say cloud kitchens, yeah.
Payments is something they would have integrated. They don't have their own payment solution.
Yeah, but that is the truth that you want to get to, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we just, yeah. So just for everybody, we're not jumping the gun yet, right? So yeah. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just doing a first principles thinking, right? So we have payments, we have restaurant listings. How many people think logistics is core of what they do? It's their business, right? No, just what is the business of Swiggy? You don't think so? No?
Because they don't own anything. Right? They don't own
It's
that.
like their goal. It's their goal.
But for now, can we say logistics is a part of it? Yeah, so we'll keep it, right? We'll decide whether it's core or not later, right? Anything else in the food? Or shall we move to Instamart? Yeah, okay. So Instamart, now what happens in Instamart? For the food, what happens in Instamart? Don't have a board here, but it's okay. We can
Groceries, items.
products, groceries, okay, items. What kind of items? Let's back up a little bit. You have electronics, you have grocery. What else do you have? Household
Medicines
items.
also get started.
Yeah, medicines, yeah. Right? But I think you you're getting what I'm trying to do in terms of first principles, trying to break things down, right? If you have a product or a service, what you try to do is you try to break it down, right? And try to understand what the core value proposition is. Right? The core value proposition is what your customers will pay you money for eventually. Right?
Isn't it food delivery was their primary business? And then they expanded either vertically or horizontally to other services. What is first principle?
No, so how they grew is not your problem. It's how you break down the business. Right. First principle, how you break it down. See, like for example, here we broken it down into infra and security. Right. Within infra, what all do you have? Within security, what all do you have? Right. So this is how you do a first. I'm just giving an example. Right. The Swiggy thing, we can debate it when the food opens up. We can do that. Right. But yeah, I think anybody questions on first principles thinking? No? Shall we move? Right? Okay. Right. So I think one of the key things, while actually looking at finding your first few customers, is you need to understand what a customer journey map looks like, right? You remember we spoke about a Venn diagram earlier, right? So there are two kinds of like what we do is we think about business as B2B and consumer products, B2C, right? Of course, I think the motivations of people are very different for both sides, but the overlap is the age, gender, location, salary, and apps, right? Which is the most used app on everyone's phone outside of WhatsApp? Instagram. Who else uses Instagram here? All of us do, right? Right? Chat GPT. Yeah. So that comes under the apps, right? Salary bracket tells us more about the buying potential buying power of people, right? And also location is important. How many people here believe location is important for sales? Demographic, yeah. So that's the core of it, right? Irrespective if you're a B2B or a B2C, right? So all of us in this room, we fall on both sides of the coin, right? We are using products that are fundamentally B2B, and we are also using products that are consumer facing, right? So I think who here uses Microsoft Office in their office space? Everybody, right? Or Google Suite or Slack, right? So we all on some level we fall this side, right? And who uses who drinks Bisleri water? Such a stupid question, right? The fact that we drink Bisleri water means we fall on that side, right? So now let's break this down, right? Let's try to see what is the okay. Who I think you are B2B, right, over here. Who else is B2B? You're also B2B. I think all of you are okay. Let's just go over it for for whoever is here. I'll go to the B2C side also. What we do is we try to look at company size. We try to look at the funding raised. I think these are just few things. I mean, we can of course expand into it. We try to understand what an org structure is. These are things I look at. I mean, it would probably change based on your business or your anybody's business. We try to see. I think from a consumer side, we try to see whether they have a job, whether they have people dependent on them, what do they watch, what do they listen, where are the eyeballs, so that we're able to sort of target people from that side as well, right? So I think this is a very generic map. I think the map changes from person to person, company to company, depending on what your hypothesis is, or where what kind of idea you have in mind, right? So it's in some cases it would probably be an intersection of all these things if you're doing more of a B2B or a B2C. So let's see how we can break this down. So from a B2B thing, what I try to do is I think personally I try to find out 3 ICPs at least, right? I think B2C would have far more ICPs, but I think from a B2B buying committee, I actually have 3 people, right? So what I try to do is I try to understand what their influence in the organization is, right? If you're doing enterprise sales, I think that would become even more prevalent, where you try to do a little B2C side of things as well. And you also try to understand where they spend time, what their organizational goals are, how dedicated they are actually to their work, or are they just part of the company and they step out after 5 p.m. right? So you try to understand all these things, right, when you do a B2B ICP definition, right? So any questions so far on this? Right, so this is how you create like a customer map, and you also try to identify who your buying committee is also at the same time. B2C is it's also, I mean, you like I just put user 1 to 3, but it can be even 100 also, right, based on what you have. What I try to understand from B2C, or when I consult with companies or I invest, I try to understand what is the perceived value of the brand, right? How many people here drink Aquafina versus Bisleri? Ma'am, you drink Bisleri or Aquafina? Aquafina and the other one, right? So what is your perceived value? Meaning, would you switch to Bisleri or Aquafina, or is it just water for you? You would stick to Aquafina. So that's what I mean when I say it's a perceived value of the brand, right? Your perceived value of maybe trust or whatever, loyalty. I mean, how many people here fly Indigo? All of us fly Indigo, right? How many people fly Air India now after what happened? No, nobody, right? So that's what I mean when I say what's a perceived value, right? Nobody flies Air India anymore, right? So you look at what the pain points are, what the solutions are. There's a possibility that if you don't get Aquafina, you might have Bisleri. We don't know, right? If probably, right? So you try to understand what the pain points are and what the value accessibility is. If you don't have an option to fly Indigo, you will have to fly Akasa Air or whatever is available, especially if it's something urgent, right? So I think anything else you can, of course, you can keep adding to this. What I've put here is just something on the surface. But these are things that need to be fleshed out, right? Because nailing down, I think we'll see later that nailing down an ICP is extremely important. What I've done here, I won't spend much time here. I think these are just some demographical factors, behavioral factors of people. I think a few of these might be relevant. A few of these might be good to have, nice to have. So this side, I think more on the demographic side, I think works more for the B2B thing. Although this is more core to what people are. The behavioral side is on people behaving on an impulse, right? Like, why do you buy an ice cream, right? Why do you eat at Subway? Who eats at Subway, by the way? Yeah, yeah. So why do you eat at Subway? You think it's good for health, right? So yeah, so that's an example of a behavioral pattern, right? Compared to other options, you feel like you're eating healthy food, right? So that comes more on the behavioral side, and also a little bit on the demographic side for somebody like you, or I mean, I don't mean any disrespect, but you can afford Subway, right? Some people cannot. Just an example, right?
How do you generalize behavioral patterns? So it depends on people.
That depends on your ICP. That depends on who your ideal customer would be, right?
If you can't find any pattern in those customers, then how do you figure out that? Whether my customers are loyal or not? Just talk about loyalty. How do you know that?
So loyalty is the only way you can find customer loyalty is by repeat users. You saw what I did, right? I asked how many people fly Indigo. I think almost everybody said they fly Indigo. Why do we fly Indigo, right? It's like there's like you and me are fundamentally very different people, right? But I fly Indigo, even you fly Indigo, right? We sit next to each other and fly from wherever we have to. No, I mean, okay, which is usually Indigo, right? So it is, see, no, so I mean, okay, so this is not okay. So I'll put it this way. See, customer loyalty comes from repeat users, right? See, Air India, I'll tell you something. So for example, like let's say that Indigo delays, right? Right? Would you fly Air India just because Indigo delayed? Right? That's loyalty for you, right? So you know what you're getting, right? Known devil is always better.
We have to ask the next question to understand each behavior.
Yeah, so there's another module where I cover where actually Tilak knows we cover the survey part of it. I think maybe we can plan something next.
I'll answer.
Yeah, go ahead, please. Yeah.
Basically,
Maybe.
to answer this question, the best way to understand your customer is there's something called as RFM technique. So RFM stands for recency, recency, frequency, and monitoring. So what is recency means? If you have to, let's say you have done a business for 1 year, now you have to understand your customer habits. What do you do? Like to answer your question, right? So in RFM, what we generally do is, first factor we take into consideration is how recent a customer is to me. Like you put a threshold date, let's say today is what? Yes, so let's say you put today is like you put 1st of August as a, let's say, threshold, and then you analyze who are the customers in my system who are purchasing from me, and the date is very close to August 1st, right? So you feel obviously the customers who have bought, let's say, last 2 months from you are your recent customers. There is second measure is something called as frequency. How often I am buying. That is what you were telling, repeat customers.
Yeah, repeat customers, correct.
Right? Frequency tells you about customer loyalty also, if you have a repeat buyer. Third one is monitoring. What is monitoring? See, you might have a product ranging from 10 rupees to 2000 rupees, right? But how do you know who are the customers who are more addressable customers? Let's say people who buys 900 rupees product from you is giving more value to your business compared to, let's say, a customer who is often buying 30 to 40 rupees product. So these are customer analytics techniques where if you have certain historical data, you can easily put it as.
Yeah, so actually, I think you all came just after we finished the market research bit. So there is a sampling bit. Yeah, no. So there is so if you don't like in his what he was saying just now, if you do not have that data, RFM data, how do you build it, right? The only way to build it is by actually going and talking to prospective people, right? I think depending on the product that you have, maybe if it's an Aquafina, you probably have to talk to 100 people. If it's like a shoe or something, maybe 30, 40 people should do, right? I mean, it depends on what gives you comfort from the data, right? What is the sample size that you're comfortable with, right? So yeah, thanks for that. I'll maybe I think maybe we'll share this with them also at a later stage, so that you get a sense. You get a sense at a later stage as well. I hope we answered your question also to some extent. Yeah, we can connect offline. So yeah. So I think what I'm trying to do here is I'm also trying to figure out an ICP prioritization. I think what you were saying was loyalty building back. The thing is that you need to figure out which is the ICP to prioritize at that time, right? If you find somebody flying whichever the cheapest is, Indigo would probably not prioritize that customer, right? But if I am somebody who only picks Indigo, even if there are 7 flights going from Bangalore to Mumbai, I will make sure that I fly only Indigo. That means I'm a high value customer for Indigo, right? My lifetime value for Indigo increases, right? So I've just put this as an example here. So I just all of you all can take 30 seconds and tell me which is the ICP that you would prioritize based on all this. Which one?
ICP.
ICP3. How many people pick ICP3? 3. Yeah. Yeah. Obviously, right. Right. So we need to prioritize our users, even if the number of users are lesser. We still need to prioritize them, right? So we need to. This is a pretty important part of what we do. I mean, you don't have to put the TAM and all of that. I mean, like the TAM is something that would come at a later stage when you actually have users or paid customers and all of that. But at this point in time, I think it's important to, at least based on the data and the market research that you do, it's important to sort of prioritize based on what you see, right? So yeah, so I think I just want to leave you with this so that you know which ICP to prioritize. Yeah, there'll be like your ICPs in more places, right? Indigo customers can be found on Instagram, Facebook, wherever, right? So this comes with analytics, like he says, right? Right, and that actually should be part of your survey questionnaire, right? Where did you find this? Where did you find that? And actually, if you have too many questions, like my rule of thumb is, if there are more than 10 questions, you should do a focus group. You should get 10 people here like this, and buy them a biryani or whatever they want, and put them in a place like this and say and ask them to answer questions to you real time. Yeah, exactly, right? So yeah, so I'll just move on from here. So why ICPs need to be nailed down? Nothing can happen without knowing who your ideal customer is, right? So this is what, if you don't know who your ICP is, then it becomes a SISP, right? I mean, there's no point even launching something like that. You try to identify sub markets, right? Map out decision makers. So I think one example I like to give here is about what the IPL has done for cricket, right? There has been, I think, a surge in the female viewers of cricket. Women's cricket has taken off since the IPL has started. Right? I don't know how many of you have observed that, right? So that was actually a sub market, right? That was a sub market to men's cricket from the IPL, right? Which was pretty refreshing, right? So you also get to nail down distribution channels, what to promote, where to promote, how to promote. You ensure right communication, right? You try to figure out who you're communicating to where. And yeah, I think I think you can also like support and correct based on the ICPs that you have. You can always correct them, right? You can figure out that this is not my ICP, right? Maybe this is not the person I should be talking to, right? So yeah, this is why ICPs need to be nailed down. Yeah, before we move to sales, any questions on ICP? I mean, we can always connect offline, but yeah. So yeah, so this is the end of the ICP bit. How many people here have experience in sales? Anybody? Done? Any channel, any kind of sales. B2B, B2C doesn't matter. B2C, okay. B2B. Anybody else? Right. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to talk a little bit about early sales, right? Because I think this is something very critical if you're going to start. And you know, this is I put this out assuming that we all know, we've all done our market research and we know who our ICPs are, and we know some people. I mean, we all know each other now, right? So we have some network, right? So there are two kinds. I'd like to break down sales into two types of ways to reach out to your ICPs. The first is scalable outbound, which I mean none of us can do. I mean, our companies can maybe do it, but not us, right? Rather the companies that some of us work for, right? So the option available to us is the non-scalable outbound, right? Which is, you know, the hustle that we do. We go and we try to meet people and we try to understand what they're doing. And like I said, right, you try to get ICPs into a room. That is going to be your early sales, right? When it's usually done when you have little or no budget for marketing, right? So I'm not going to talk much about the scalable outbound. Maybe that's something we'll talk about after all of y'all have been funded and have lots of money and can spend on marketing. So I'm going to leave this out until then. We'll talk about the non-scalable bit. First thing is it requires you to nail down the ICPs and the priority of the ICPs who you're going to go after, right? The second thing is it involves making a list of companies or channels where the relevant ICPs are, right? And you talking to existing connects or alumni. So we all have graduated from somewhere, or even if we haven't, I think there'll be some connects that we have from wherever, right? So these are connects or people who we can go and speak to, right? And you know, based on that, you know, we'd at least be able to have at least 10 to 15 prospects who we can talk to, right? Based on all of this. So so non-scalable outbound, I've actually broken it down into B2B and B2C. Both of them are pretty organic and they are pretty static and slow. And they are usually very limited, meaning there's only a limited set of people who people are willing to introduce you to, right? They're usually founder-led. I mean, I'm sure you would have also, as a founder or prospective founder, you would have probably gone and spoken to a few people about an idea that you have, right? You make a list of companies or communities where you want to pitch your products to. Communities works better from a B2C perspective. You know, I mean, of course, there is I mean, there is a risk of sort of people copying the idea, but then, I mean, if the niche and the ICP is strong enough, I don't think you need to worry about that, right? So you make a list of companies and go after them, or make a list of communities and make sure that you're putting out content there, and reach out to existing communities or you know, basically find the place where your ICPs are so that you can sort of, you know, find the best way to reach out to them. And these, I think the last pieces of it, except the alumni, would be the place for you to sort of go after for where your ICP is also, for you to start running performance ads and those kind of things, right? Yeah, before I come here, I mean, any questions so far? Anybody? No? Shall I move forward? Yeah. So I think B2B, I think you guys are doing B2B, right? I'm sorry, I didn't ask. Are you in a B2B or a B2C space? B2C. Okay, so I'll come. I mean, the next one will be for you. So for you guys, see, sales is all about momentum. I do B2B sales. The most important thing which I haven't put here is actually leaving your ego aside, right? People are going to tell you no a lot, but you still have to do it, right? So the thing is that what I try to do is I try to understand about being at the right place at the right time is about being in enough places at enough times, right? So I have some resources for all of you for that going forward as well. But ideally, you want to send out personalized emails to each of the people that you want to talk to. The input metrics should be clear. The output is something you cannot really control, but input metrics should be clear, right? Whether even if you're making like or 10 calls a day and 50 emails, you need to make sure by the end of the day that's been hit, right? And honestly, like sending out emails, personalized emails, doesn't take more than an hour. I've figured that out also. Sales cannot be done once a week. Need to do it every day, right? So higher total contract value and annual contract value should involve in-person meetings. Let's say that that your if your contract value is around 70 lakh, 1 crore, you do need to go, and I mean that kind of business needs to be done in person, right? Like one thing I advocate to people is the multi-channel approach, right? And this is a framework you can use for the same prospect, right? So let's say I reach out to Happiest Minds, right? So I on day one I send one email and I make a call. On day 4 I send another email, a call, and a LinkedIn message. And day 8 I sort of try to do just this, and maybe day 12 or day 16 or whatever I try to do something else, right? So it actually goes into the prospect's mind that they are that these guys are everywhere, right? At least that's what they think, right? So that perception of being everywhere actually is important, right? So this is something that I use. Now coming to okay, before we go to B2C, this is just some numbers that I actually found in a report. These actually are pretty accurate because I've tried them myself. India is actually a good place to do B2B calling. That's what I've realized, right? Even if and like even if it's a negative response, it's still a response, right? At least you know that you need to stop there, or you know that you need to sort of at least keep this prospect warm, things like that, right? There's a separate framework for that. I think if time permits, maybe we can do that. But yeah, I think B2C sales excellence comes from actually being extremely patient, which is also the same thing for B2B sales as well. Cannot expect results immediately. It doesn't happen just like that. How many people have actually been seeing founder-led content on LinkedIn today? Yeah. Anybody else? Founder content. Like how many people have been seeing? How many people know? I'll just throw a name. Sam Altman from ChatGPT. We all know him, right? Do you see the content he puts out on LinkedIn? Right? You see it, right? And the fact that he's Sam Altman makes these two things work really well, right? So the fact that content is king. How many people know Akshay Srivastava? Finance YouTuber, right? Do you like his content? Do you like his content? Mid, yeah.
I like it inside.
Like his insight, right? So content is king, right? And where he puts them is also the kingmaker, right? He puts them on LinkedIn where people like us are. He puts them on YouTube where we can watch him, right? So content distribution is the kingmaker. So think of content as the army for the king, and the distribution is the army that will go fight for the king, right? So this is how we think about content. We leverage distribution channels. I think what I try to tell B2C founders is that choice of distribution channel is critical. It's critical in a sense where you need to know the channel, right? For example, I know LinkedIn, right? I know the algorithm and I know how the algorithm works, right? Some people might know Facebook or Instagram, right? So you need to figure out which distribution channel you are the best with, and sort of just put all of your content and sort of distribute it there, right? I see a lot of people leveraging WhatsApp also today, right, for their content, and it's actually very effective, very very effective. Influencer marketing. How many people here have tried influencers before? Right. So I think again, right, the choice of the right influencer is also an important piece of it, right? So I think Adobe is using is Ankur Wariku, right? So yeah, just thanks for that. I just for their distribution, and it's actually really good. It's really working for them, right? Their sales of Photoshop has gone up by 33%. If you see from the last quarter, right? So choosing the right influencer is again as important as choosing the right distribution channel, right? And again, this can only be done with the ICP. Without the ICP, it won't happen. Events, pop-ups, sponsorship. I think I spoke about oat milk. I can't remember the name of the company, but I think they do a pop-up in Reliance Fresh and those kind of places. Vendor management. I think one thing I've seen is sometimes vendors also help get business, right? So for example, I think this shirt, right? Van Heusen would have probably got it made from somebody in Ludhiana who would have set up a store for them, right? Vendors also I've noticed help in franchisee. I think how many people have shopped at a factory outlet? How many people prefer shopping at factory outlets? Why do you prefer? Why do you prefer?
Cheap price.
Cheap price, better quality, or cheap price, or both? Quality is the same, but cheap price, right? How can they make the prices cheaper than right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, but that comes from having strong vendors who are willing to push that product, right? Yeah. So that's why it's actually a very critical thing. It's something that I've observed in some of my portfolio companies also, right? They look at vendor management as a very strong way of doing sales, right? So any questions on this? Yeah.
Who are not from sales.
No, go ahead.
Just out of curiosity. This influencer marketing, with social media. What's your take on this? Marketing strategy has now shifted, right? Previously, it used to be newspaper ads and all this, but hardly these days people are on newspaper.
Right.
So let's say for any company to think what percentage they should put, or how do you do that calculation, or how do you find who is my right audience?
So who watches Ranveer's podcast? Who watches Raj Shamani's podcast? Sorry, I just changed the example because I want to know actually who watches Raj Shamani's podcast. All of you watch it, right? Who saw the episode with Kunal Shah recently?
I saw some bites.
Did you see the mug that he was drinking coffee or whatever was in that mug? What was written on the mug? Porter. Porter was written on the mug. Marketing, influencer marketing, right? Why should Porter go and give Raj Shamani the money to do that? Their ICP is watching Raj Shamani's show, right? We'd like to think that. We don't know whether that really happens, but we'd like to think that, right? So even Ranveer also, I think can't remember the fitness brand, but I think this John Abraham is doing a lot of stuff with the whey protein, right? People following John Abraham are sitting in the gym, right? It's as simple as that. But again, at the same time, influencer marketing requires you to pick the absolutely right influencer within your budget, because the tier 3 influencers onwards, tier 2 influencers would probably be like Akshat Srivastava, who probably doesn't take money for some of the videos, right? Okay, I'm not going to put him as a tier 2, but then you have tier 2 and tier 3 onwards, right? People who have like 100K followers, 200K followers, right? Those people, we don't know how they got the I don't know, they got their audience. But the Momsco is actually the Momsco, and I don't know if you've heard of the Momsco, the company, and even that there's one more that went public, right? For basically products for moms who are like moms with infant children, right? So they actually went after these influencers, right? So they were actually able to leverage that really well. I'm not against them. Sorry, I'm not against them. I say do your research properly. See who their audience is, right? What content and whether the product fits into that content. Ankur Wariku fits in fantastically, right? Right, fits really well, right? Because that whole thing, I mean, he uses Photoshop, right? So it fits really well for him, right? I think IKEA he does a lot of work with small influencers, actually, right? So yeah, I'm not against it, but pick it properly. Do a complete thesis research if you have to, but make sure that it's a good one. That's the thing. Any other questions? No? Okay. Yes. Okay. So we're coming towards the end. So how many people go to an event every week? I have people in my office who go every other day to an event. Sorry? No, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm saying over networking and meeting too many people. I think what happens, I think what happens is that the perspective goes right. I think you get too confused. That's what happens if you over network. Like the frequency varies from person to person, but over networking is not good because there's like one event that I went to, or I went to like 3-4 events. I saw the same people every event, right? That's not that doesn't work, right? That's a bad ROI for me, right? So that's what I mean by over networking, right? Go to events, don't go to too many events, right? Lack of ICP definition. I think people don't do this exercise before. They don't do this. I think it's so important, right? I think people need to spend good time. Founders need to spend good time doing that. No cold calling momentum. I think as human beings, I think we don't like. There's only so much of threshold of say having no said to you that'll work. So ego comes into the way. So I mean, which is not the greatest thing. Unwillingness to do the grunt work. I think GTM requires a lot of grunt work. I mean, I'm hoping that people actually, execute on things. Moving away too quickly before GTM goes into swing. I think I think there are a lot of people who try something for a few hours and then move away because they're not getting the desired results. I think I said this earlier. You need to be patient and follow things through. Giving up too quickly while doing enterprise sales, I think that it's just the same thing. Falling into the SISP trap, solution in search of a problem, need to validate before actually doing it. I think I was talking to you outside about an AI SDR. How many people have tried an AI SDR sales? How many people have tried an AI sales bot? So I've tried it. It's actually, I mean, me and a few people in my community have tried it, and it's failed very badly because the voice bot cannot speak back after a certain point, right? So yeah, so I think these are some of the ones that I have seen. I mean, I'm sure there are many more, and I'm sure that these are instead of saying mistakes, I'll just say learnings because I've also fallen into many of these traps earlier as well. I think further reading. I think for people who want to want to do more research on this. I think if you reach out to me, I'll probably send you a copy of the Bloom. You can find it on Bloom's website. The GTM field notes is actually pretty nice. Some of the stuff I picked up today and I presented to you is actually from the field notes. Selling to C-suite, I think as in when you get to a point where you require sales, I think we could actually look at this is available on Coursera. Prakar Verma's podcast, you can actually listen to that. It's a very nice one. He actually talks about how he did his initial sales and all of that. Sharath Narayan is the CEO of a company called Observe AI in the US. He has done sales in India. I would recommend some people to do the Growth X program. Although again, I would advise against analysis paralysis. Performance marketing, I don't think is required. I think for this audience, but I think email marketing and the foundations. I think just to get started, maybe some of y'all can consider that. I'll just one last thing, maybe for those who want to sell to C-suite people, I think this is more for you guys. I can actually make this available to all of you all later, right? Basically, this is how that guy who's this guy. I think Harris something, right? He's actually done his ICP like this, right? Based on the product that he's selling. This is an example of an ICP for all of you. right? So yeah, with that, I think we'll do a Q&A. If you have any questions, we can. I think we can spend a few minutes with for Q&A. Yeah.
And to my other question. How do you know how you pick for what are
You know you hit product market fit when you as a founder do not have to get involved in sales, closure of sales. Yeah, because so that number can be 10, it can be 20, it can be 50. Some founders need to be. I mean, see, like what I mean by involvement is that you don't need to initiate anything or you don't need to do any of the follow-ups. You need to come in to influence for your sales guy or for or you hit a certain scale. Only then you realize that you hit product market fit. So like because you're a B2C, I'm trying to tell it to you that way. So let's say that the first 100 sales or first 100 product dispatches have been done through your network, right? The 100 from 101 to 110 or 150, I think a better metric is 150, have come from people outside your network, right? But that threshold has to be defined by you, right?
so those people need to buy something from you? Give them money, give them money value out of the people are just providing value.
No, I mean, of course, it's necessary to see, see, business is always a transaction. Like I'd like to think of business as you providing value for a certain fee, right? The easiest example is a staffing company, right? They provide resources or they provide time of people for a certain fee, right? Like you bill out an engineer for let's say 3,000 rupees per hour, which is what $50 or something like that, right? So there's always, so if you don't get that money back, then there's no willingness to pay. So your ICP fails right there. Yeah. Or your PMF.
Use a necessary parameter to judge whether you have
Yeah. So beyond your network, who's buying? Beyond your network and beyond your network's network, who is buying? How are they buying? And then double down on that channel. And you still need to be involved in sales. That's just want to add to what he's saying. If you still need to be involved in sales even after that, then you have to rethink your offering, your value, right? If you sell ice cream, for example, right, we'll all buy from you to support you, right? But after that, I think it becomes I think it's up to like even we'll probably go and sell to our network to support you. But then after that, you you'll have to see where it's coming from, right? If you get more, I mean that is a sense that you hit product market fit. And if you've got significantly more, then you'll have to see which channels are they coming from. So if there's nothing, then I think we can call it an evening. Thank you for spending your Saturday here, and I hope you learned something. I mean, you can write to me, connect with me on LinkedIn or whatever, and I mean, happy to engage with you all further. But yeah, I hope you'll learn something. Yeah, and happy to answer any questions offline if required. So yeah, over to you.
Thank you so much, Abhishek. Thank you, everyone. I hope you have got the great insights from GTM. Still, we are available. You can access for LinkedIn or probably approach us. If you need one-on-one session with us, where you actually want to understand how your GTM is going to work, or you have any confusion, we would love to take a session with you virtually. We'll share you the virtual session link for a free calendar, and you can go get a free having session with us. Thank you so much.